Well, hello. This is not Nana, it's Papa. And I see my hair looking good. But anyway, I have a story to read to you today. And I just bought it. And it's about a little girl and a rabbit and a birthday. It's called Mr. Rabbit and the Lovely Present. So, along out in the garden, as you can see, the little girl came along and said, Mr. Rabbit, I want to help. Help, little girl, I'll give you help if I can, said Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit, said the little girl, it's about my mother. Your mother? It's her birthday. Well, happy birthday to her, he said. What are you giving her? That's just it, said the little girl. That's why I want your help. I don't have anything to give her. Nothing to give your mother on her birthday? Little girl, you really do need help. I'd like to give her something that she likes, said the little girl. Something that she likes is a good present, said Mr. Rabbit. I think that's a good idea. But what, said the little girl. See in the garden there? Well, what, said Mr. Rabbit. She likes red, said the little girl. Oh, that's good. You can't give her red. Something red maybe, said the little girl. Oh, something red, said Mr. Rabbit. Well, what is red, said the little girl. Well, Mr. Rabbit said, there's red underwear. No, the little girl said, I can't give her that. There are red roofs, said Mr. Rabbit. See, he's looking at a little cabin with a red roof on it right there. No, we have a roof, said the little girl. I don't want to give her that. There are red birds, said Mr. Rabbit. Red cardinals. No, said the little girl. She likes birds and trees. There are fire engines that are red, said Mr. Rabbit. No, she doesn't like fire engines. Well, said Mr. Rabbit, there are apples. Good, said the girl. That's good, she likes apples. But I will need something else. I know somebody else that likes apples too. Me. What else does she like, said Mr. Rabbit, as he's walking away with an apple in his mouth. Well, she likes yellow, said the girl. Yellow, said Mr. Rabbit. You can't give her yellow. Oh, something yellow maybe, said the little girl. Oh, something yellow, said Mr. Rabbit. What is yellow, said the little girl. Well, said Mr. Rabbit, there are yellow taxi cabs. Oh, I'm sure she doesn't want a taxi cab. The sun is yellow, and I can't give her the sun, though I would if I could. A canary bird is yellow, said Mr. Rabbit. She likes birds in the trees, the little girl said. See, they even see a canary over here in the tree as he's sitting on the fence. You ever sit on a fence? Yeah. That's right, you told me, said Mr. Rabbit. Well, butter is yellow. Does she like butter? Oh, we have butter, said the little girl. Bananas are yellow. Oh, good, that's good. She likes bananas, but I will need something else, though. And see, they've got a banana there, don't they? Yeah. I like bananas, too. What else does she like, said Mr. Rabbit. Oh, she likes green. Green, said Mr. Rabbit. You can't give her green. Well, something green, said the little girl. Emeralds, said the rabbit. Emeralds make a lovely gift. I can't afford an emerald, said the little girl. Well, parrots are green, said Mr. Rabbit, but she likes birds and trees. No, said the little girl, parrots won't do. And she's still not quite sure she's got this thing figured out to what to get her mama. Peas and spinach, said Mr. Rabbit. Peas are green and spinach is green. No, said the little girl, we have those for dinner all the time. Caterpillars, said Mr. Rabbit. Some of them are very green. She doesn't care for caterpillars, the little girl said. Well, how about pears? Bartlett pears. The very thing, said the little girl. That's the very thing. Now I'll have apples and bananas and pears. But I need something else. See, she got a whole tree full of pears, and she's got her apples, and she's got her bananas. Like lots of fruit going on, so you know what that means. Later on, there's going to be lots of toot to go with lots of fruit. You're welcome, Moms. What else does she like, said Mr. Rabbit. Oh, she likes blue, said the little girl. Blue? You can't give her blue. Oh, something blue, said the little girl. Lakes are blue, said the rabbit. But I can't give her a lake, you know, said the little girl. They're sitting over by the lake, aren't they? Yes. Stars are blue. I can't give her stars, said the little girl, but I would if I could. Sapphires make a lovely gift, said Mr. Rabbit. Oh, but I can't afford sapphires either, said the little girl. Bluebirds are blue, but she likes birds and trees, said Mr. Rabbit. Right, said the little girl. How about blue grapes, said Mr. Rabbit. As they're walking over the bridge, what does he have in his hand there? You got some grapes, doesn't he? I like grapes, too. Yes, said the little girl, that is very, very good. She likes grapes. Now I have apples and pears and bananas and grapes. That makes a good gift, said Mr. Rabbit. All you need now is a basket. Oh, I have a basket, said the little girl. And she took her basket and she filled it with apples and pears and bananas and grapes. It made a lovely present. Thank you for your help, Mr. Rabbit, said the little girl. Not at all, said Mr. Rabbit. Very glad to help. Goodbye now, said the little girl. Goodbye, said Mr. Rabbit, and a happy birthday and a happy basket of fruit for your mother. I bet you she really liked it. And it says, the end. So that was a lovely present, now wasn't it? Now, I also pick out another book when I was buying that book. And this one might take more than one reading because it's got lots of chapters in it. And it's about a boat. And it's about a kid that lived on the river. And he had adventures with this tugboat on the Columbia River. And the book is called Kid on the River. And it was written by Dean Nichols. And back on the back, it tells you something about Dean Nichols. It says, this exciting book tells of the rich and varied experiences of a young tugboat captain on the Columbia River during the era between the grand old stern-wheelers and the multi-thousand horsepower tugboats of today. So this took place a while ago, back when they didn't have diesel engines and things like that on the boats. Mr. Nichols grew up on the banks of the Columbia River, and I don't know if you know where that's at, but that's out in Washington State by Seattle and Spokane, Tacoma, those kind of places, if you ever looking on the map. He grew up on the banks of the Columbia River, and his high school days were spent working on water rafting logs, running boom boats, and checking on the tugs. And after his graduation in 1938, and guess what? That's the year that my papa graduated. He became a full-time tugboat captain. My daddy went and became a full-time United States Marine. The author writes about the challenges and hilarious predicaments he encountered on the river. His humorous and sensitive stories of the day-to-day life as a boy tugboat skipper should be of interest to anyone who likes to read about the history of logging and boating along the majestic Columbia River. So now we'll begin this, and like I said, we may not be able to go but a chapter or two, but then I'll continue it another time, so that maybe in a few sessions we will have the whole thing. Now they drew a map here inside showing the route of the Columbia River in Washington up here and the state of Oregon down here, so that the river itself is a boundary between the two states. So, let's begin with chapter 1. And it has a psalm quotation to begin the story, and it says, they go down to the sea in ships who do business in great waters. These shall see the works of the Lord. In July 1979, the screaming engines had quieted some as the big plane made its last turn before settling on final approach to Portland International Airport. We were crossing the Columbia River, and as always, I scanned the water for some memory, some small link with the past. There, that small tug with a single log raft plodding down the great waterway. I smiled and remembered a kid I once knew, a boy tugboat captain. Then I openly grinned as the story of the tugboat race he had had over 40 years ago came rushing back to my memory. The Mid-Columbia, or as some prefer, Bonneville Lake, some 60 to 80 miles east of Portland, is almost always rough, lots of waves. The summer heating of the inland desert winds build up, and the low pressure that comes off the water off the Pacific Ocean with cooler air sets up a pressure gradient not unlike the difference inside and outside a balloon. So the Columbia Gorge being the open neck of that balloon, the old flat log raft did not survive well in those 6 to 8 foot and higher waves. So most log towing was done at night. The Underwood log dump across from the Columbia from Hood River, Oregon, it was clear but very dark night as the kid stepped aboard his 38-foot tug and started the engine, a high-speed Atlas diesel engine. High speed because it turned 600 RPMs instead of the usual 300 of the old heavy-duty engines. He had a single long raft to tow to Vancouver, Washington. The raft was already rigged with extra lines called swifters and dog lines, so it was only moments before the raft was free. The tow line hooked and that tiny engine was going full throttle as the raft followed out into the dark night. The word throttle is another word for a gas pedal, like on the car when you push the gas pedal it goes faster. Les Egan, the part-time deckhand and part-time recluse, which meant he stayed alone and very crotchety, kind of like Papa can be, but is often entertaining, brought coffee to the wheelhouse. The wheelhouse is where the wheel is that they steer the boat with. The tow line's tied down, Skipper, he said. Looks like we'll have an easy night tonight. Yes, replied the kid. It's tough to be up at these ungodly hours in a way, but there's a peace and beauty too, you know. Les, I believe I've seen more sunrises, really glorious sunrises, than most people have sunsets. Seems like everything has its compensations. So Les agreed and returned some philosophical observation, but a half hour later he said, looks like we have company. Looks like one of the Smith tugs a couple miles back with a raft out of Hood River. A few hours later, as the colors of dawn were beginning to show up in the eastern sky, the Smith tug was nearly next to them. With his 120 power Cummins diesel engine, he had twice the horsepower, and it was making a difference. So by the time they passed Wind River, he was already clearly ahead. You know, Les, if they make the locks before we do, we'll have to wait a whole extra hour and a half till they get through. But I don't know what we can do. He just has more speed than we do. But an hour later, the kid captain noted something. The Smith tug was taking the usual route, a sort of shortcut behind the island a mile or so east of the old locks. You know, Les, I've always taken that route too, because it's obviously shorter. But if we follow him, we are beat. I'm going to stay out on the main river, even if it's longer, and maybe the extra current will give us a break. Another hour passed, and as the two tugboats cleared the island and came into sight of each other, the kid captain and his tug was again in the lead by over half a mile. So by taking the other way, the faster waters helped him. With the rebuilding of the Bonneville Dam, the old Cascade Rapids were covered with quieter water. That means there wasn't as much waves and stuff. Still, the current, or the speed, picked up 2 or 3 miles per hour in speed from there to Bonneville. Whoever reached those rapids first would, of course, get to the locks first, and the race would be over. But there was still 1 more mile to go. Now, you guys might be asking, what's this business about locks? Are they talking about something on the door or something on the toolbox? A lock? And the answer is no. The word locks is also a phrase that talks about another means when you're going to take a boat and transfer it from a body of water or a lake that might be way up here, and now you have a body of a lake down here, and the water would rush down in rapids and rocks and stones. So if you tried to take a boat down that, it would crash. So some really smart people figured out a way to do this without crashing boats. So what they did is they developed what's called a lock. And someday when you guys might be up here, we might go over to Sault Ste. Marie and see those locks, because you can see them today how they work. But what happens is the boat comes into a almost like a tunnel of water, although there's no top on it. You can see the sky. And then behind it, in front of it, a door is in front of it, and behind it, a door closes behind it. So now the boat is all in one piece in the lock. And then what they do is they gradually let water out until the boat that was up here at this level now is down at this level. And when it is down here, they open up the other door. That's the level of that lake, and the boat just goes right on out. And then they close the door back up. And then they can pump water in to raise it or let water out to lower it. So that's what are called locks, and that's how you get boats from one higher lake to a lower lake. So they're racing to get to those locks because they want to get through first and get their tug that they're taking to wherever their destination was. So anyway, back to the law. So with the rebuilding of the Bonneville Dam, the Cascade Rapids were covered with quieter water, but the current did pick up 2 or 3 miles an hour in speed from there to Bonneville. So whoever reached those rapids first would get to the locks first, and the race would be over. But there was still 1 more mile to go. "Hey, he's worried," shouted Les. "Look at that black smoke." That meant that the other boat was speeding up as much as they could to try to win. "Let's get down to the engine room and put our foot on the wedges," shouted the kid. "We can't lose this race now." So now he was going to get his motor to go as fast as it could. And on all those old Atlas diesel engine, the engine speed was controlled by a governor, which is a thing that you put on an engine so you don't get it going too fast, okay? And it controlled a row of wedges that pushed in or out to decrease or decrease the lift on the external push rods. And all this gobbledygook simply means it makes the boat go quicker, okay? So Les dove for the engine room, and the little engine was now turning 900 RPMs, nearly doubling her power. And black smoke was coming out of her smokestacks and filling the sky. A long time passed as the 2 tiny engines roared, and the 2 young captains leaned slightly forward, urging their boats along. But the Smith tug had made a mistake. And a half hour later, the kid captain got into that fast water first and swept away from the contest. The engines settled to their normal rhythm, and the smoke quit, and the race was over. A tugboat race of long ago, a race lasting half a night and part of an early dawn. Yet it had flashed through my memory during that final approach to the airport in my airplane. As the tires screeched to a contact in the runway, I came back to the present. So he was dreaming about this tugboat race, or daydreaming about it. But that grin stayed with me on my face, even though nobody asked me about it. A few noted that old gray-haired man was obviously in his own world and smiling at his memories. So we know the author was a much older man now, kind of like Papa, remembering some stories about when he was very much younger, kind of like you. Now that's the end of chapter 1, and that's where I'm going to stop for today. And the next time we'll pick up on chapter 2, because I'm kind of excited to see what all happens with this here tugboat. So you guys be good today. Don't you do anything so your poor mamas have to pull their hair out, because you know how that can be. And then when your daddies get home, you just love on them, and you have a good time with this story, and go to bed early tonight and eat all your peas. Bye, and I love you.